Hi there, welcome to Transcorner Trailer Sales. Today I'm going to be walking you through your 2013 Keystone Hornet. We are just going to start off the back of the unit. If you notice, that's where your spare tire is going to be located. Then you do have a 2-inch receiver back here with also a 4-pin wiring set. Just keep in mind there is some weight restrictions when it does come time to using it. Coming into the driver's side, you do get access from both sides, but simply that's inside this bumper tube is where you're going to want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in there yet. And then in the two back corners, you do get your stabilizer jacks. So the way those works is once you have the unit nice and level, you can run these feet down to the ground. Once the feet do contact the ground, just give you another 1/8 turn to snug it up. It's going to take any bounce or sway you see we have in the unit right now away. In addition to that, they are stabilizing jacks. They're not leveling jacks. Please try and use them as so. Otherwise, you do run the risk of bending them. You get your standard 30 amp twist lock connection. You're just taking note. Plug it in, you're good to go. This cord is about 15 feet long once fully extended. So if you wanted to get an extension cord, you can do so. Just of course making sure that it's a 30 amp extension cord if you're wanting to run your air conditioner. Get your hot water service port here. Standardly, once you get to your campsite, you give this pressure relief valve a pull. There should be a shot of water coming out of there, letting you know if the tank's full. We do currently have the unit winterized, ready for customer pickup. It's the end of the season here in Manitoba, so that's why there's no water coming out of there. So it wouldn't be safe to fire up right now, especially if you were to fire it up on electric. You'll burn that probe out pretty quickly. Get a black tank flush, so whenever, after every couple uses, or if you're just noticing false monitor panel readings or an odor around the unit, it's always a good idea to use that. It's just very important that you do have your sewer hose connected and your black tank valve open. City water connection, so if you're out of sight with service, you just thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. And then right down below the floor, you get your first and main sewer exits here. But don't forget, you do have your galley in the back there. It does work the same way as these guys, but you want to empty these guys first, as this is going to be where your black tank valve is located. Again, emptying that one first is your dirtiest water, fill it from your toilets, and then you come behind that with your gray, and then move on backwards to your galley. 2 low point drains right down there below the floor, so if you don't want water going stale or stagnant because you're leaving the unit for a while, or you're finished your winterization process, you want to empty out a majority of that antifreeze, that's where you do so. Inside this front compartment here, lift this guy up, go straight through to the other side. There is some lights on the wall, so you can light it up in here a little bit to see what you're doing. Over here, there's a little access port to the back of your water heater, so you can get access to that for winterization as well. Standard starter kit, that's where you're going to find a 15-foot water hose, 10-foot sewer hose, and then of course a 15 amp park adapter. So let's say your campsite doesn't have that 30 amp plug, it only has the 15 amp service, or you left this unit at home and you just want to run it on your driveway. We do include that adapter. Just keep in mind, if you're using that adapter, you're not going to be able to run your air conditioner. It's just to run your fridge and your lights realistically. Inside this compartment on this side, you get your first 2 propane tanks. It's a 30-pounder. We'll go around to the other side so you can see that side. That's where I'll explain it a little bit more. Inside this front compartment, to my right of it, you get your landing leg control, so up or down. Inside there, you get a bunch of storage space. It's also where you're going to house that battery. And then right around, coming to the passenger side now, opening up this guy, this is your main propane tank. It's also where you get access to this regulator. And on the front of that regulator, there is a little selector valve. With it pointed that way, you're obviously drawing off the other tank. If you point it to this side, you're now drawing off this tank. Now, if this tank were to go empty, you would just have to close it, remove it, go and get it filled. But while you're doing that, you can always flip this regulator over to the other side and start drawing off that other tank on the other side. Inside here, again, it's just going to be some more storage. It comes right through from that other side. Again, another light on the right as well. Furnace exhaust, whenever your furnace is running, it will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. You get a couple coax outlets, couple 110 outside plugs, then you do get your fresh water fill. So if you're out boondocking or your campsite just doesn't have water, this is where your fresh tank fill would be. Put a garden hose in there or siphon water in, whichever you're doing, fill it up. The drain for that is just right down below the floor here. Cracking open that valve, that is what drains the water out of the tank. Now for the best part, to take a step on inside, just taking that assist handle, pushing it up, holding it 90 degrees. It does lock it into place. It'll allow you to open up your door, pull your stairs towards you, and maybe pull it down like so. Once we do step inside, these customers opt to go with the Titan Porta Tank. It's going to be a great addition to your camper and help you moving around that sewage. On the wall here, this is where you get control to most of your stuff. First, removing the slide out control before you ever run your slide out. It's always a good idea to give it a good check inside and out. Just make sure that there's nothing that's going to get caught between the slide out and the wall when you go to put it out on the inside. Same as goes for up top, because things do tend to shift during travel. It's always just a good idea to make sure you have enough, that nothing's moved and it's going to cause damage to the slide out when pushing it out. And then on the outside, just of course making sure you have enough room to go all the way out without running it into something. Then it's as simple as pushing and holding the out button, watching the slide out to make sure it goes out, making sure you are visual and watching it while it's doing it. So that way if you do see it start to do something funky, you can just let off the button. But once that slide out gets to its full extension, you're going to hear the motors wind up and click. So you hear those motors wind up and click. Now if you want to be extra sure it was out, you can just run your hand between the slide out and the wall, making sure that you can feel that rubber seal up against the wall, sealing out moisture. And then to my left, you get your monitor panel system. Pushing the button tells you the corresponding level. Same goes for the water pump. Turning that on draws out your fresh tank. Water heater, you can either fire it on gas or electric. If you go to fire it up on electric especially, it's always a good idea. Triple check that you got water inside your tank, because whenever you turn this on, it right away turns on the probe inside the tank. And if there's no water inside of there, it only takes it to be running out of water for about 5 seconds and it's automatically burnt out. They're about 120 bucks to replace, so it gets pretty costly pretty quickly. Gas, turning that on. So it's going to be a good idea to make sure you purge your system first. I'm going to go over purging once we do make it over to the stove. But if you were to turn that switch on and the system were to be purged already, it would try lighting itself 3 times. It should light, but if it didn't light, this red light's going to stay on. In that case, you just have to turn this button off. Go hit the reset button inside the outside area and then try turning it back on. It's always a good idea if something's propane doesn't light first time, always try it a second time. Again, it just could be a purging issue. Then you get your slide out control over here. Push and hold that extend button. The slide out's going to start. The awning is going to start making its way out. Once the awning is fully extended, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and a little flap hang down. Unfortunately today, I don't know if we'll be able to get it all the way out just due to space. So you would see now that the flap is starting to come down. Sometimes it can get stuck, so again, you might just have to retract it a couple feet. But you get the gist of it. So now I come over to my awning arm, pull down at the center, change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now if you like that angle better because it's going to allow for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing. The front arm, just make sure that you do push both these arms back to straight before you try and bring your awning in. That way you don't run there bending anything. Whenever you have your awning out, always a good idea, keep an eye on the wind speeds. Once the wind speeds do start picking up, it's going to be very important that you bring that in. It acts exactly as a wind sail. It doesn't take much to move your fabric and your arms. Push down, which is retract. It's going to start rolling in. Once the awning does contact the side of the trailer, the motor will automatically cut out. Couple light switches on the wall. One's going to do a porch light. The other one's going to do the majority of your living space lights. Okay, now that you can hear that awning contact the side of the trailer, the motors will automatically cut out right about now. And there we go. Now I guess we could start off in the main living space, your entertainment center here. You are going to have some different zones. You're going to have A speakers, which is the main living space, B speakers, which is up front, I believe, and C speakers, which will be your outside speakers. Other than that, pretty standard entertainment center. You got some child locks the previous customer left on there. You can leave them on there or take them off. It is a good idea to leave them on there just so that if you are doing any aggressive turning or anything like that, I know you don't plan to, but obviously sometimes it happens. It stops them from kind of popping open, which is always good. Inside this area, you got your bed, which does fold down into a bed. You got your couch, which folds down into a bed in case you were to have some extra guests. You do just have to pick up at the foot of it, pull it towards you. Once that is doing that, again, you get the legs to flip down like so. You're gonna have to move this out of the way for a second. Move out of the way, flip down these back cushions again, and you're gonna have yourself another bed. Of course, with these guys filling in that void, and then to get them back in, it is just the total opposite. Folding them back in, they just automatically suck in what they're supposed to. Just keeping note of these swivel chairs, the orientation that they're in. These do have to be where they are for the slide out to close properly. It's going to be important you have them like that. Otherwise, the slide out's going to run into them. So just be mindful when you are bringing that in. They have to be properly aligned. Your dinette area also turns down into a bed. You're just having to remove the feet from underneath the table. Set your tabletop on its desired ledges, and then take your back cushions again to fill in the center. And you have yourself another bed. Lights are just on their own center push buttons. All the blinds in the unit, for the most part, do just sit where you leave them. Retract them, push them all the way up. You got different blinds. Tons of storage space throughout this unit. Just, of course, whenever you are using any of it, being mindful of draining the water lines and things like that. You're not going to be wanting to affect any of that. You got your fridge. Push and hold the power button to turn it on. Once you do turn it on, it's going to go into auto first. Now that's going to first search for AC power. If AC power were to be taken away, it would automatically switch over to gas. But for that to function properly, again, it's going to be very important that you have your gas on and the system purged, because again, these only light themselves a couple times. They don't sense a flame. It's going to throw a fault code, probably throw some frustration into your weekend. We want to avoid that. Now, I turned it off by accident. So if you wanted to change that to solely run on gas, because let's say you're out boondocking or whatever the situation may be, you do just have to push and hold the mode button. And that's going to switch from auto AC to gas. And again, just pushing that again, pushing and holding it, will switch you back over to auto. And again, it's going to first search for shore power. Temperature control, pushing the button once, it'll show you what your temperature mode is. So with all of these lit, it's going to be its coldest setting. If you push and hold the temperature button, you can, as you're holding it, the bars go up. And whatever bar you let off the button on, that's the temperature it will stay at. Power off, opening it up, fridge freezer combo. If you've never camped before, if you've ran this fridge and freezer all, let's say for a week at time, you're done using the unit, you're parking it for the year, you want to turn off your fridge for the year, it's always a good idea when you do turn it off to leave it open while it's off to allow it to get to room temperature, because when it does so, it is going to create condensation inside of here. So it's going to be pretty important. You put some towels inside just to soak up some of that moisture. That's going to help to stop the growth of mold or mildew. Kitchen area, pretty standard. You get a little extra flip out counter space. Down here, because we're equipped with propane, you got your LP detector. Propane's everywhere. If this guy ever does start going off, just turn off your main supply propane at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents, and get some fresh oxygen inside of here. You got your fuse and breaker panel right next to it. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it, and all your corresponding fuses will be on the right. So now coming to our stove, I said we were going to go over some purging things, because when you turn off the system at the front of the unit, it slowly lets air into the system. Once air makes its way in, it does have to be purged out. Now, sometimes it can take a few minutes, so just be patient with it. But of course, because it's gas, being ultra safe while doing so. So if you go to turn on one of those gas valves on, making sure you have your lighter already lit. So when you do turn it over to there, the flame's already going and it fires right on up. Let's say you left this gas valve running for extra time that is unnecessary. It does cause gases to build up over here. And if you let too much of them build up, you can have a minor combustion. And if your face was nearby, you're probably going to lose some eyebrows and eyelashes. So again, just be safe whenever you are trying to light it, because it's gas. And because it's gas, always making sure you're trying to run your range hood whenever you're using it. That way you're evacuating those propane fumes as you make them. But just turn it over to the high/light option. You get your lighter handy so you can light everything, and it does fire right on up. For the stove, it's pretty much the same thing. Turn it over to the pilot option, push and hold the knob in. Take your lighter, go back here, go to the little gas orifice. You're gonna see that pilot lit. Once that pilot's able to light, you'll see it go out there. Once that pilot's able to light and stay lit on its own without you pushing in on the button, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it does fire right on up. Now today, again, it lit up pretty quickly just because I had the system running earlier. Sometimes it can take a few minutes, so just be patient with it. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the main living space. Whenever you're running your air conditioner, you also have a couple different options. You can run it with these louvers closed, in which case it moves all its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout the unit. Or you can open up these louvers, in which case it'll quick dump all its air into this main living space. So if you first get to your campsite, it's nice and hot in here and you want to cool it off, it's always a good idea to open those up, cool off this main living space. Once the living space is nice and cool, you can then close them and push the air throughout the unit. And the reason for that being is the main intake vent for this air conditioner is inside this living space. So if you cool off the main living space first, it just makes it that much easier to push the air throughout. That's going to be pretty much it for this in here. If we take a step on up top, you got your thermostat. Clicking it to the right, you're going to have that heat setting, so that's going to kill your air conditioner, fire up your furnace. Your furnace only has 1 fan speed, and it moves its air through all the floor portals you have throughout the unit, and it does run off propane. One more to the left turns it off, and then pushing it one more time to the left, you get fan. Now that's just moving your air around with the air conditioner. There's no heating or cooling involved. And then hitting it one more time over will take you over to cool. Now that's when air conditioning takes into effect. Now for your fan setting, you're gonna notice there's on and then there's auto. I always recommend leaving it in the auto setting, so that means it's an on-demand system. So if you have cool on and you're in the high auto setting and you set that temperature to 60, once the room reaches 60, it'll automatically kill the air conditioner. If you have that setting on, that fan is going to run full time regardless of what you have the room set to. Off to turn it off. When you do go to fire up the furnace, again, it's going to be pretty important that you have the auto setting on the fan, because otherwise, if you have it in the on setting, it will still continue to run your air conditioner fan even though your furnace is going, which kind of defeats the purpose. If you take a step up, you get access into the bathroom. Door opens up. Light switch just on its own center push button. Maybe not. There's a light switch somewhere. Sorry, light switch is on the wall. Pretty standard bathroom, minus the fact of having your main GFI plug in the wall. You got test on the bottom, reset in the middle. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, always make sure that your GFI isn't tripped. Sometimes it can trip for the weirdest reasons, so just double check that's not tripped. It's a quick way to troubleshoot. Medicine cabinet, shower. Noticing you do have that little latch here to stop the shower door from opening while traveling. It's glass, it doesn't take much to break it, so it's always a good idea to make sure that's latched before you start moving. And then last but not least, taking a step on into the bedroom. Pretty standard bedroom space. Lights just on its own center push button. This door in here gives you a little access to like an ensuite style deal, but just keeping in mind this is a sliding door. This strap has to be latched whenever you're traveling, otherwise the door is going to be able to swing around freely and probably rip off the hinges as you're traveling. And then you do just have your bedroom space, which again is pretty much self-explanatory. Now if you do have any other questions, feel free to give us a call here at Transcona.